This event is co-organized with our partner CCP and Kumasi Hive. And this is part of the Artificial Intelligence for Agriculture and Food Systems Innovation Research Network Capacity Building Initiative to help African scientists, researchers, and policymakers to develop policies that will govern the use of AI in an inclusive manner in Africa. And so we want to pay attention to this session. Actually, this session is important to everyone. Now we have concluded the project, we need to influence policy with evidence. So as an introduction, the utilization of artificial intelligence in agriculture holds significant potentials to tackle the crucial issues that the sector is facing. And we know that AI-driven solutions can improve crop monitoring, simplify distribution, optimize resource consumption, mitigate the effect of climate change, and so on. So, but for this to drive positive change in the society, we have organized this training because the training aims to equip participants with the necessary skills and knowledge to develop compelling and evidence-based policy briefs that can influence decision makers and make positive change in the agricultural sector. Hence, the overall objective of this training workshop on development of policy briefs and advocacy is to improve the proficiency of participants in crafting and disseminating policy briefs that are germane, concise, trustworthy, and attractive to their designated audiences. We also understand the fact that most African countries does not situate well in this. They don't have AI policies. Some are struggling to get it, some are getting it. So it will help these participants contribute effectively to such policy developments in their country. So the specific objectives will include to train these participants on purpose, types, and characteristics of policy briefs, enhance participants' knowledge and understanding on the effective policy advocacy and influence. So we expect that all participants pay close attention. We also want to note that part of the hands-on will be to develop a policy brief for each country. So we want to, listen carefully as the trainers come in and train us and also do the tasks, because I'll be following through with each of our grantees to see we have a policy brief from the participating countries. We have 8 countries, so we'll be having 8 policy brief if possible. And so for today, we will be looking at what are policy briefs and their uses, module 1, and wherever we stop, we will conclude tomorrow with a lot of practical sections. So module 2, crafting a policy brief, and then module 3, policy briefs as a tool for effective advocacy and policy influence. Each speaker or each trainer will introduce the area of training, and then we want to pay attention. So first of all, before we go in, I want to also introduce Professor Nicholas Ozo, who is the Executive Director of ATPS. At least we want to maybe get opening remarks before he formally starts training you. So you can see it's a privilege for the Executive Director to train the participants. So it's a special training. We saved the best for the last. So please pay attention. You can also invite your friends to join us. It's a cross-cutting issue across various sectors. So we want you to be part of it. Professor Nicholas also, we just want to hear your welcome address. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joel, Professor Engineer Joel Mwakire, the project officer for the AI for AFS project. Thank you for inviting me to make this very brief remarks. So mine is to thank all the partners of this project, the Kumasi Hive, the ICIPE, but most importantly, our donor, the IDRC Canada, and CEDA for their support to this project. We have had a very, call it a long journey, developing, deploying, and trying to scale our AI innovations and tools in the area of agriculture and food systems since 2022, effectively. And the journey is ending, and also ending on a very good note. So I thank all the grantees from all the 10 grantees from the 8 countries that participated in this study or in this project for your diligence, for your commitment, for your cooperation. We have had lots of training programs. We've had lots of hands-on and hand-holding events. We've had lots of one-on-one interactions with you. We are very happy with most of you who have concluded their projects in a way. And for those who are yet to meet up with the final requirements, we urge you to quickly do so as the project has even technically ended. So this is one of the training programs that we had left till this end, when we are sure that you have all your data, all your outputs, all the knowledge products that are coming from your project. And then we usually ask, research for what? Research for practice. Most of you are doing that or have done that. The other thing we ask of, which is in the objective of this project, is research for policy. So if you do a research and that research is not able to influence policy or practice, then your research is one of those that they say ends up in the shelf and is meaningless. So that is why we wouldn't want your research to be that of one that ends in the shelf. While most of you have influenced practice, we also want you to influence policy. The AI policy is an evolving one, and we would want your research to be able to influence policies in your respective countries. And we will work with you to achieve this. And one step is understanding how to influence policy using one of the most popular strategy, which is policy brief. We know that most researchers like you hardly influence policies, but we want to also train you that you will not just be a researcher that develop AI tools for agriculture and food systems, but also a researcher that will be able to influence policies in the AI sector in your respective countries. As you know, the AI policies are still underdeveloped. Very few countries have AI policies. The likes of Ghana, Rwanda, and others are in the development stage. So this is just all I have to say to welcome you to this very important training that will be for today and tomorrow. And in as much as it will be for today and tomorrow, we will still work with you to ensure, like the project officer said, each project is expected to have a policy brief that will be published from that project, at least one policy brief, which we will work together with you to accomplish that. The procedures, the modalities are contained in the presentation that I'll be making shortly. So at this point, I want to thank our donors again, thank our partners again, thank you all the grantees, thank all the R&D ecosystem who have been participating and friends who have joined us from far and wide for this webinar. You are welcome. Thank you. And over to you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you, Prof. We appreciate those kind words. So we want to go straight into the training, and the first trainer will be Professor Ozo, and then Alfred will follow in that order. So we want to introduce Professor Ozo. Please, Professor Ozo, the floor is for you.
All right. Let me ask for my screen to be shared. Alfred, can you share my screen, please? Is it possible for it to be in a full presentation mode? While we are waiting for the technical people to upload my presentation, I would actually want to take a cycle of, or take note of the projects that are represented here. If you wouldn't mind, Joel, I would want you to call up on each of the projects to kind of introduce themselves so that I know who is here.
Right, thank you very much. I think let's start with Kenya, our home country. So we have two projects in Kenya. We have that of geospatial research and then Stratmore. So can Hilda is here. Hilda, just say hi to us. And then you can give us the title of your project.
Exactly.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Hilda Manzi from Kenya. We were conducting a project on the use of AI and artificial intelligence for the development of a surveillance system for tuta absoluta in tomatoes in one of the counties in Kenya, Machakos County. Yes, and we developed a PEMOST tool that is actively being used by the farmers. Thank you so much.
Next.
Thank you. So let's introduce from Nigeria, Professor Chineyide.
What of Strathmore?
Here I can go next.
Okay, Betsy is on transit, but I think she said someone will represent her.
Here. She's here.
But Betsy is here. Betsy, okay, Betsy is here. Yeah, go on.
All right, so I'm Betsy Morevi, a research fellow at iLab Africa Research Center at Swarthmore University. Our research project was looking at developing IoT and AI tools for weather and climate information systems that is being used in Busia County, in Nambale and Butula villages. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You, Betsy, can we now go over to West Africa, Nigeria? It's Professor Anya Dike there.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, esteemed Professor Joel, you, Executive Director, Professor Nick, of it, fellow grantees. My name is Chinenye Chukwemeka Ayadike. I'm leading the project on using artificial intelligence to enhance the production, management, and marketing of in Nigeria. I'm leading this project under the Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria. Thank you for this opportunity to yet explain it. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Ghana.
Yes. Good morning from Ghana. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And my name is Patrick Kwabna-Mensah, and I'm leading the project Detection of Crop Pests and Diseases on the web and on mobile devices using deep learning. So that is the Ghana team. Thank you.
Thank you. Semedo from Cape Verde. Or yeah, Sonia is here.
Yeah, hello, good morning, greetings from Cape Verde. In our project, we specifically focus on developing IoT system to monitor soil moisture, weather condition, and irrigations, water availability to support farmers in smart irrigation, along with employing drones to monitor crop growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Kebe from Senegal. I think he's not here. Can we go to Tanzania? Hudson, is Hudson here? Or a representative? Okay, let's go to Tanzania, back to Tanzania. Alcado is here. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good afternoon, East Africa. Good afternoon, West Africa. So I'm Dr. Alcado Alex Barakabis from Sokoine University of Agriculture. I lead a project called AI for More Crops, which is enhancing crop yield prediction models using machine learning in Internet of Agro Things in Tanzania. So we predict crop yields, specifically focusing on maize and the soya crops. So currently, our project has managed to produce actually 3 papers. So 1 book chapter, 1 conference paper, and 1 journal paper, which is being that will be published in IEEE Access, very, very top ranked computer science journal. And we also have one of the outputs from the project. That's the establishment of the AI and Emerging Technologies Lab so the project has triggered us to establish this lab. Of course, we got some seed funding from the Royal Academy of Engineering after introducing the concept of what we have been doing in the project. So we are also coming out with something good, which will, of course, come to 8PS and to see how we can do a joint venture to accelerate the agriculture transformation across the Africa. So this will be coming soon to 8PS and see how we can collaborate and work together in the future. Thank you very much, Joel, for the opportunity.
Thank you. Is Isaac Fadika here from Malawi? Then lastly, but not the least, Godliver from Uganda. I think they are not here. Please, Professor, you can continue.
Okay. Still before I continue, Lord Chinwe, can you mute your system? Before I continue, I would still like to hear from our two partners, ISIPE and Kumasi Hive, to say welcome to the participants. ISIPE. I think Desi should be here.
Yes. Thank you, Professor Zol. Thank you, Professor JN. It's just another opportunity for this training. And I welcome all the participants in here. And want to thank the facilitators, Professor Zol and Alfred, for taking time to prepare this so that all of us can benefit and indeed put this into practice. So welcome, and we thank you for having this training with all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy and ISIPE. Now, Kumasi Hive.
Hello. Hello.
Go ahead, Rex.
Thank you, Prof. Welcome to researchers. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Joan. And thank you for putting this together. I believe this is the crucial part of our research. What are you doing to bring to the influence policy? I'm very much happy that we are going through this process. And we are still from, so we are learning from your knowledge. Thank you, Prof. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much. I think, do we have our donors here? Joel, do we have
No, we
donors
don't.
here? Okay. All right. So, it is always good to give honor to whom honor is due. And I thank all of us. We will hit the ground running with this presentation. And the title is Approaches for Effective Policy Influence, the case of policy briefs. Next. So I have the following outlines. The breaking news first. Usually, it is when you have a breaking news, it draws the people to the other news items. So I'll give a breaking news, talk about ATPS, some provocations and reflections, rationale for policy brief and why it is important, and then the content of a policy brief, case examples, recommendations, and then tasks and timelines. So we start with the breaking news, which I'm very sure it will interest all of us here and even our friends who have joined us in this training. I'm very pleased and happy to inform us that we have received approval for a new grant under this project by the same donors. If we are present, I know most of you would have started clapping because this is a thing of joy that we have come this far. If it is a clear testimony that we have all done very well, and that was why I wanted to acknowledge the presence of everyone here, so that I also know who is here and who is not here, because the new step we want to take will not be for the faint-hearted. It will only be for those who really mean business. And as I've always told you, when we have had series of training, when I do introductory remarks, I've always told us that the way we are working, that I am optimistic that we can get a new grant and to support what we have been doing. And as you can see, this has eventually materialized, that we now have a new grant to advance. So when we say advance, it's like deepen the responsible, gender equality, and inclusive AI innovations for agriculture and food systems in Africa. And that's why this one now we have moved up a bit to now have AI for AFS Plus. So the plus now is an addition to what we have done before. However, like I said, it will not be for the faint-hearted. It will be for those who merit it, who would want to journey with us again. So I won't talk much about that. I'll go to the next slide, and more information will reach you regarding this breaking news. So ATPS, we all know about ATPS, but for the benefit of those who are not here, who have not been with us, maybe our friends who joined, ATPS is a network of researchers, policymakers, civil society actors, and the private sector actors that promote the generation, the dissemination, the use, and mastery of science, technology, and innovation for Africa's development, for environmental sustainability, and global inclusion. And we work across Africa, but our headquarters is located in Nairobi, Kenya, but we have national chapters in 30 countries, including diaspora chapters in the UK, Australia, and the United States of America. So we engage in broad range of activities relating to science, technology, and innovation, including policy making, policy influence, capacity building, youth, gender empowerment, knowledge brokerage, commercialization, and so on and so forth. And one of the science sectors that we promote is emerging technologies, or what we call frontier technologies, like the AI. Next slide, please. So maybe to begin to contextualize the topic for today, I would like to make some of these provocations, which is like a food for thought, which I am not saying should answer now. The first is, do policymakers consider research evidence important? Why is there a low uptake of research evidence to inform policymaking in Africa? So I'm sure most of you who are researchers must have come out with a lot of research outputs, and they are wondering why these your findings and recommendations, why the policymakers have not come to ask you, what did you bring out from your research? Can we use it and make policy? So you just get your research evidence and you sit with it. So I'm not answering this question, but I will answer it in the course of the presentation that we'll make today. Secondly, should we aim to build linkages between and amongst research, industry, and policy? And who should champion it? If we were in a practical room or exercise, I would have been asking you, who do you think will champion research and development endeavor? Is it the researcher or the industry partner or the policymaker? And if I ask that question in a skido, maybe I would like to get this answer actually. If you, out of these three, research, industry, and policy, who do you think should drive R&D, research and development in any country? Who do you think? So go to the chat box and just write the one you prefer, research, industry, or policy. And maybe at the end, someone will collate it for me. Wentland will collate that for me. The next question, how can we effectively communicate research results to policymakers? Yes, you've come up with these research results, but then they are about 300 pages. You don't know how you can, and they tell you, okay, give me a one-page document on what I can work with from this your research. And the researcher is struggling how he can prepare a one-page document out from a 300-page research technical report. That is it. That is part of the challenge. How can policy research institutions like ATPS help bridge the linkage gaps? And that's what we are doing through training. Should research be politicized? What are the implications? What are the implications if we politicize research? Already, we will see the implications as we talk. Why are policies that have been duly enacted not duly and effectively implemented in Africa? Most of the time, we see policies everywhere, but yet they are not implemented. So these are some of the questions that I want you to begin to think about, even as we make this presentation. Some reflections. There are two reflections I want to make here. One is that it is clear, and I would like to let us know that a science, technology, and innovation-led development is a political endeavor. Remember where I said, should research be politicized? You can understand from this statement, which is published, that STI-led development is a political endeavor. Political endeavor in the sense that for science, technology, and innovation to thrive, there must be goodwill from the political class. The political class must give it an acceptance. There must be goodwill from them. A pronouncement from a president for or against a particular sector, call it GM technology, for instance, can make or mar that R&D in that sector. And that is when you begin to understand that STI, for you to get real development, you need to have the goodwill of government. Again, the successful implementation of policies and plans rely heavily on the interactions between and among the stakeholders. Yes, for us to have a sustainable policy that is implemented, all the key actors must interact. This is different from the question I asked. The question I asked is, who should drive? Who should drive? So I don't need somebody is answering, they should all collaborate. Yes, they should all collaborate. This is an evidence that they should all collaborate. But I said, who should be at the forefront? And when you say that, you would have answered my question. Next slide. Next slide, please. So, just to provide a kind of background and rationale for this policy brief influence, I wish to inform us that, yes, as we do our research, your research output, like I said earlier, must influence or shape programs and policies and practices which help to contribute to societal development or solving societal challenges. That is when your research would have met its target. Therefore, for your research to influence policy, one strand of the outcome, for it to influence policy, there are many ways of doing that. There are many channels, there are many strategies, there are many approaches. But one particular approach that has lived the test of time is the use of policy brief, which is a short document that presents to policymakers key issues and recommendations on how the issues can be addressed and mainstreamed within governance. Policy brief. So you may have done I see some of your technical reports, some of them are 200 pages, 100 and something pages, 70 something pages. But then what I am asking for from you are 3-page document, a 3-page document. So you will see most researchers struggling. And that's where we have our niche, how to translate these 300 pages into 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages that policymakers can now use to make policies. Because they will not go and read all those, call it jargons, that you may have written. They may not even understand it. So language is critical. Next. Like I said, the policy brief influences policy. And for some of you who may even ask, what is policy? Policy is just a statement of intent by government or public authority. It can also be a statement of action or also inaction. Sometimes when a government keeps quiet on an issue, I saw that mainly in the area of genetic modified organisms, where some government will not make a pronouncement on their stand for or against. That inaction is also policy because they have not said anything. So it is also a way of showing or saying, I am not in. So it is also a way to show that one is not supportive, especially when public policy is involved. Next slide. So policy can come in form of a bill passed by the parliament. It can be a law. It can be a policy itself. Bill is usually from, bill and act come from the parliament, and most policies are executive orders coming from the executive. So, but let us not think that policy making is a straight line linear process. No. Policy making is a very complex process, which I shall demonstrate to you so that you can know that for you to get one law or one policy or one bill passed, there are many iterations, there are many waters that must have passed under the bridge. So right from agenda setting to policy formulation, because you need to set agenda, you need to, formulate the policies, you need to make decisions, then implement and monitor to be able to evaluate whether your policies have met. This is the cycle of policy making process. But then the stakeholders and actors, I want you to watch carefully what will happen in this simple process of policy making process for you to understand how complex it is. Need to click several times and slowly. Alfred, can you click? Next. So if you look at this, there are actors. We have the donor, you have the civil society, you have the private sector, you have the ministries, you have the parliament, you have the cabinet. So these are the actors from where a policy can be made from in form of policy, bill, act, and so on and so forth. So most of the time, assuming the ministry initiates a policy through agenda setting and policy formulation and just passing through the processes that we have stated. Click, Alfred. So it can as well be cabinet initiating it, and it can go through that process. It can be the parliament initiating a policy process, and it will still go through, set an agenda to solve a problem, and then formulate the policy, decision taken, the policy implemented. Next, civil society, private sector can also develop a bill. As you may know, a private citizen has the right to also, based on a challenge within his constituency, recommend what can be done. Also, donors. We saw in many countries where the World Bank or IMF may be responsible for developing a policy. We've had instances like that. So go ahead, click, and whichever you see that for any of those policies to take place, depending on the actor initiating, you can also not just run with it. You will need to also engage other actors in iterative processes for them to make contributions for that policy to be able to pass. Go ahead. Because the donor can initiate it, the ministry can initiate it, the civil society can initiate it, or parliament, and then the civil society can say no. We have seen it in many countries where the ministry can initiate or cabinet can initiate, but because you have to carry everyone along to have an enduring policy, a sector or an actor can oppose it. And when they oppose that policy, it may die there. It may not proceed. So for a policy to come out, click again, please. There is need for interactions between and amongst all these actors before you see one policy, either a bill or a policy on this or a policy on that. These interactions may have taken place. And this is an evidence to show you that policy making process is a complex situation. So it is not just one person waking up and running with it till the end. It will not work. You must involve all other actors for it to have an enduring policy. And for you to know that this is a complex situation. It is not just that this is a good idea and so let it be a policy. There are others who will look into that your policy to be able to tell you whether it is good or not. And if you don't do it like that, the policy may receive opposition and resistance that may make it to be thrown away. I don't want to give examples. Some of you know more examples than me. Let's look at policy brief and its benefits. Next. Without much ado, a short document that presents the findings and recommendations of a policy research. Remember, a policy research is an applied research geared towards informing and influencing policy decisions based on existing or actual societal challenges. The way you design methodology and approaches for an ordinary research is not the way you design the methodology for a policy research. That is the difference. Our institution or institutions like us do not just engage in any research. ATPS, for instance, can only engage in a research endeavor that must see a pathway to impact to policy or practice. Those are the kind of research you engage in. And you must set and understand the methodologies or approaches to achieving that policy research endeavor and follow it through for you to be able to get a good evidence that you can use now to influence policy, because it must be anchored on an existing societal challenge which you want to solve. So it's not just like ordinary research, conduct research for research sake. So policy brief is a very powerful and effective tool to use to engage in policy campaign, because it gives the policymaker the opportunity to market the evidence that has been generated from that research endeavor and use it to make policy. Next. There are many types of policy influence, but we are focusing on policy brief. Remember, you can have breakfast meetings, you can have informal meetings, you can have parliamentary sessions. There are many types. Even there are ones that are not based on science and that are only based on even friendship. When I was in the university, they used to tell us that if you go to the senior staff club, that is where the best brains are. And sometimes decisions made there can even influence the decisions taken by the highest echelon of the university. You may doubt it, but these are truths that happen every time. So there are guidelines for developing a bankable policy brief, which I'll briefly talk about. One is that you need to focus on the target audience. The message needs to be clearly focused on the target audience. So who is this policy that you want to change? Who is it supposed to target? Is it to farmers? Is it to ministry? Is it to pastoralists? Who is supposed to benefit from this? Who is the person that's supposed to receive your? Are you targeting the executive arm of government? Or are you targeting the legislature? Or are you following up with the ministry? Or your member of parliament? So this needs to be clearly, you need to clearly understand that. Secondly, you must keep it brief. Keep it brief. They call it KISS. Keep it short and simple. Focus on a particular problem or issue. Do not cram all your research into one policy brief. If necessary, write many other briefs, each addressing a particular element of your research. 2 to 8 pages, about 1,500 words maximum, depending on context. This is very important because the moment you are now asked to go and develop your policy brief, which you will do, the tendency that you want to bring all your objectives and start forcing them into this policy brief will be there. But that it is you who will, you don't change font size for me. It remains 12 font size, double spacing, or single. So the layout has to be 1 by 1 by 1 margin. So no shortcuts. And yet you get the 2, 3, 4 pages. So what, in a sense, you are required to only focus on one key issue to address. One key issue. You may have many other issues, For instance, somebody was talking about yellow pepper, marketing, production, this, that. So you may find a common issue that we cut across the marketing, production, marketing, utilization, and all those. You can also pick a marketing angle depending on where you think the challenge is. You can pick on production angle depending on where you think the challenge is. You did the research, you know an issue that you think could be of interest to policymakers, that if they stumble on this your policy brief, it will help your minister, your commissioner for agriculture to say, let's change things like this. Let the extension system integrate this, and so on and so forth. That is for that. Keep it short and simple, and don't be too verbose. So this is the meat of the policy brief. So you will have key messages. Key messages, we usually advocate for 2 to 5 key messages. You have an introduction or rationale. Approaches is not for you to begin to write detailed methodology, but a simple approach on how you were able to address this challenge. The procedures you followed, very simple, in such a way that the policymaker can understand it. Your key findings, your conclusion, and then implications and recommendations, key recommendations. Those key recommendations have to be spot on. I can lay my hands on each one of them. It will not be woolly. It has to be straight to the point. Next. So for key messages, identify 3 to 5 bullet points from your research as a lead statement that will lure your audience into reading your policy brief. These messages must be short, fact. Mind your language, avoid all technical jargons and concepts in that your particular discipline. Make it easy to follow for a wide and knowledgeable audience, and should be written last. So don't start writing key messages. It is the first that you should write, but you should write it after you have written the other sections of the work, so that you can now have a clear picture of the content, and then be able to now develop 3 short sentences or key messages that somebody will read and immediately understand where you are focusing your policy brief on. Next. So your rationale. The rationale asks the why question. So explain why the issue is urgent, what you are trying to communicate. Why is it important? What is the objective? Give an overview of the findings here, an overview, and create kind of curiosity for the rest of the brief, so that somebody will want to read more. The policymaker, you have to always make the policymaker to be testing to read the next section of your policy brief. Next. So approaches answers the how. How did you conduct this work? It relates to who conducted the study, relevant background, method used, and the description of the methodology will have to be at a high level. So not like details. Next. So key findings, this section answers the what question in terms of the revolution of the research. What did the research find out? What did we learn from this research? Make content easy to follow. Start by painting a picture, move to general, from general to specific, and then conclude your key findings. Sometimes use very simple charts or graphics or photos to describe your key findings. But don't go into some graphs that are very ambiguous for a policymaker to understand. Maybe you've done some multi-linear regression and all this, you start showing the graphs here. No, just simple charts that can figuratively show your key findings. Next. Your conclusion says, so what? So what does it mean? Finally. So you use this section to conclude and interpret your data and express ideas using strong assertions, like you're summarizing the entire work that you have done. Next. Recommendations. So you have to answer the so what question here. The relevance of the research, the implications are what could happen. So what could happen if this policy brief, this research evidence that you have found out, what are the implications if government keep numb, if government don't take action? So this is part of what you are using to spur action, to make the policymaker to have interest. That if you don't treat these locusts larvae in the desert with this chemical, when they grow into adults, it is going to devastate 300 hectares of maize farm. Make it in such a way that when they see the implication of what you are telling them out from this your research, they will begin to say, oh my God, if they don't take action, we are doomed. That is where what you state here. The implication of inaction will be clearly stated here. And then you make recommendations, do A, B, C, D things, and these recommendations has to be clearly stated, and what, in terms of what should happen next in a step-by-step procedure. Next. So these are the key contents of your policy brief about those 5 key areas. Therefore, you are supposed to follow each of them to be able to understand what you need to do in every of the key 5 sections that you will do. So to enable you see more examples of the policy briefs that ATPS has published, the website for our policy briefs are here. And you are encouraged to go to the ATPS website to access them and see the examples that I have stated here. A lot of policy briefs have been published and useful. But let me also let us know that the ATPS is renowned for using policy briefs to influence policy. One critical example is the STI policy of Kenya, where they used our policy brief on mainstreaming gender into the National Science, Technology, and Innovation Policy of Kenya, because when we were consulted regarding this policy, we were UNESCO approached us and we had a lot of convenings that eventually culminated in producing a policy brief that clearly defined the essence of mainstreaming gender, because by the time we saw the policy in the first instance, it had no gender perspective. So we were able to do consultations, and after the research we did, we came up with this policy brief that defined the strategies and recommendations for mainstreaming gender. This policy brief won the best policy report in Africa for more than 5 years, and is always referred to. It's been used by the Kenyan government to mainstream gender into their policy. So just a case example of what we have done. We've done that in many other countries and used it to achieve results. Next. Overall recommendations. There is need to continuously train researchers on how to write policy briefs, because if you are working in the interface of utilizing research results to inform policy, you must be able to use this as an advocacy tool to influence policy. That is the policy brief. And ATPS has, for the past 4 decades, supported researchers to influence policies using this particular tool. Next slide. So, whereas I come to the end of the oral presentation, I would like to draw your attention to some tasks, because when I finish, maybe we can take some questions, but then there are tasks that I want you to bear in mind. Remember that we have agreed with our donor that we are going to co-publish 10 policy briefs from your 10 projects across 8 countries. And we are going to take it very seriously, especially now that we are thinking about next steps. So, after this presentation, we have brief question and answers. After that, we give some break for each project team to develop and present a pitch from what you have understood. Of course, you should be able to now design a policy brief. Okay, what comes to your mind immediately. Remember, the policy brief must not take the title of your project. So and that's why we are saying it must be one issue that you are addressing. So you look at your project and see one issue, you frame that issue, and then you pitch, you'll be able to pitch for us what you think can be, at least for the first understanding of what policy brief is. Then make a presentation within 5 minutes. Then by 1 week's time, maybe next week, Thursday, I now expect you to fully develop a draft policy brief, which you shall share with us by 2nd August. And our team here will review it or review them and come back to each of you by 12th August. And the project team will revise and resubmit by 15th August. and the final reviews completed by 20th August. And we hope to co-author this policy brief with you by 30th August, once it has passed through our internal system of peer review. For those policy briefs that will still maintain high standard, we will publish them in our technopolicy brief series, which is where most governments and institutions even come to pick key research results to use as evidence for policy making. Next slide. Next slide, please. Oh, all right. So that is it. Thank you very much for paying attention to this very long but very important presentation. And before I will invite Alfred to lead us in going for this break, he will tell us how long he would allow each of you to prepare this brief, just short stuff that you will present here. I would like to get the results of the question that I had asked: who should lead R&D development, research and development in countries? Wentland, I hope you have worked them out. I would like to know who came first, who came second, and who came third. Then maybe one person can defend why he chose what he chose. And then we can face question and answers and take a brief break to enable you prepare your presentation. And we come back, maybe we take 5 to 10 minutes, and then back, and you present 5 minutes before we close for today. So Wentland, can you give me a breakdown of the question and answer? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas, for the wonderful presentation. In regard to your question that you asked, the results are as follows. The researchers took the lead, closely followed by policymakers, then industry practitioners, academia, and the last batch was government.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody who can defend for me that researchers should take a lead? I have my own opinion, and the world is free. Feel free if you say it's researchers that should take a lead. Can you tell me why? Can raise your hand. If you are proud to say it's researchers, can you raise your hand and be invited to just defend it? There's no right and wrong answer, remember. So raise your hand, please, to be identified. Or I think this is in the chat box. Wentland, if nobody's raising hand, just mention one person who wrote researcher for me.
Okay, we can go with Hilda, Dr. Hilda Mans.
Good. Hilda,
Yes.
tell us why you chose researchers.
I chose researchers because they're in the space of understanding emerging issues and being in a position to research on them. Or on the other end, if they're approached by the industries to look at the gaps that are there, they're in a position to research and come up with the solutions. And then when it comes to the government, the same thing, the government may have, for example, let's say food security issues. It is the researchers that are able to research and come up with the solutions that can be there, and working alongside the industries and the government, be able to create an enabling environment for the absorption of these innovations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for supporting your argument and your position. There's no right or wrong answer. Well taken. So, who again? Industry. The second one is who? Policymakers.
Yes, the second one is policymakers.
Policymakers are the same thing with government. So, who said policymakers?
So let me choose.
Or let me first of all get a volunteer before. Who can defend his or her position?
Chinyenye has raised her hand, so
Chinenye Adike. Is that?
Let's say that that collaboration is key between the researchers, the government, the private sector, industry. But the government should take a lead. Why? Because governments should take a lead because they will be able to create a comprehensive and effective R&D ecosystem. Because when we talk about policy and regulation, governments create and also implement these policies. Then funding and investment. Government has the capacity to be able to allocate significant resources that can be able to drive these innovations through grants and other things. Then we talked about infrastructure and support. I use the academic environment as an example. You know, if you have well-equipped facility like in Nigeria, we hear over several times either ASU is on strike and the rest. They are talking about infrastructure, equipping, creating a conducive government, creating a conducive environment for research and development. So I think with that, government should take a lead. Why we don't also undermine the collaborative effort of the triple helix approach. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Well noted. No right and wrong answer. Everybody has his own or her own opinion. But we shall see. Next, who said industry?
I will pick Barbara. She had an opinion that all three should work together, and one of them was industry. So she can maybe share her thoughts on it.
Barbara Zelu. Is that?
Yes. Actually, I was for researchers because when Dr. Ozo clarified like who should be at the forefront, I chose researchers. But in any way, I can still talk about industry, particularly that some of these innovations, like when it comes to implementation, we need funds, and industry can also take an advantage of that to invest in R&D innovations.
Thank you very much. Well taken and noted. I'm not saying this because I am biased, but I'm also saying my opinion. And that my opinion is that the government or the policymakers should take a lead for the following reasons. One, who sets even the research agenda that you, the researcher, will go to research on? Who sets this research agenda? It is the government. Government says 5-point agenda, 6-point agenda, 3-point agenda. Then based on his agenda, that is the government, a researcher can focus. If a government said, I am investing my money in agriculture, in energy, and in health, and you want, and you are so obsessed with climate change, and you want to start doing research on climate change, fine. You may not get the money like Chinenye Ayadike had clearly said. You may not get, because when government says this is my research agenda, it goes with money, it goes with infrastructure, it goes with enabling environment, it goes with things that will make that research agenda to work. And that is when now research can catch into the agenda of government. If government says, I do not want, and Hilda is my witness here in Kenya, there was a time research and development on GM was banned, as in banned by government. And the commercialization of GM was, you can be arrested. So if you want to go into a research area where government has said, within this my geographical region, I do not want to research on this, then you become an enemy of government. And so, whereas the collaboration is very, very important, I also see from my experience that when the government drives R&D, it makes it easier for the other actors to also fit in and work. Like I said, union is like chicken and egg thing, and you take your own stand. And no stand is wrong. Thank you very much. This is, I think we can now open it up for questions and answers before the next session. Any question? Feel free. Comment, contributions in the next 2-3 minutes.
Okay, one question. What if the government does not have the capacity, or it's not like having a lot of interest in promoting R&D?
Okay. Technically, there is no government that will not have interest in promoting R&D. What you can get is that the level of interest differ from one country to another. While let me use Nigeria as an example, maybe investing 0.3% of their GDP to research and development. South Korea and Japan is investing 3% of their GDP to R&D. So in every government structure, there is that interest. Interest is constant, but it is just the level of interest that differ. And that is why currently we are developing the African Union's Science, Technology, and Innovation Strategy for Africa 2034. The current strategy is ending this year by December, and a new 10-year strategy mirroring the Agenda 2063 has already kicked off. We have started this, and it is taking place because we need to have a guide through which national government can mirror and develop their own national STI strategies. So in this strategy, they recall that 45 years ago, in the about the Lagos Plan of Action of 1980 had said, let every African country, of course endorsed by the African heads of state, invest 1% of their GDP, gross domestic product, to research and development. But ever since then till today, there is no African country that has hit this 1% mark, except there was a time South Africa got this, and we saw the linear relationship between investing in R&D and commercialization, development in the country is linearly correlated. Same with Kenya. Kenya is among the top, and we see them. If you check the innovation index of last year, you will see those countries that are investing more in R&D are highly innovative. Talk of Mauritius, South Africa, Algeria, Morocco, Kenya, Botswana. These are countries that are leading in Africa in terms of innovation index. And check the history in their investment. You will see high investment to R&D. But those that have low investment, you see that they don't have a lot to show from they are not going to they are not there in the space. Of course, Nigeria is among them anyway, but relatively low in terms of the quantity, the amount, the volume of money. Thank you. Any other question? Or we move to allowing a kind of 5 minutes. I know that as we are saying this, most of you must have started drafting something, which I would want you to present shortly. So, in the absence of any other question, remember, this is not a one-off journey. We have started a journey that will lead to us having 10 policy briefs. And we are very happy that and optimistic that you will not fail us. And you will not fail yourself, because this is going to be one of the publications that will have all of us to put our hands to get it done the way it should be done, because we want policymakers to use this critical mass of information for it to begin to contribute to the knowledge economy of artificial intelligence research and development for agriculture and food systems. I'll hand over to Joel, who will then make a final comment here, and hand over back to Alfred to lead us in the quick sessions that we follow in trying to agitate our minds to develop something that we can quickly share now, even though we'll have more time to prepare them and submit by next week. Joel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. So I want to understand what they need to share now. Is it that they are going to maybe do a draft immediately and share it, or within tomorrow, so that it becomes clearer?
Alfred, what do you think?
Yeah, I just wanted them to, as a way of provoking their minds, so that they can be able to think about their projects, and then say something about it and how that project can be converted into something that can help influence policy and practice here in the country or across in Africa. So that is all I want to hear. just a connection between their project and how it influences policy and practice. So that when we get to tomorrow and the next days, we should be able to have a clearer picture as to what we are focusing on and how that can be more practical. So that is it, Joy. Simple
Excellent.
connection. Yeah.
Excellent. So you did your work for 18 months. Can you just tell us one clear policy impact pathway that your project can follow or that you can bring out from your project? That's all. You will have up to 1 week to now work on it in details and submit. Isn't it, Alfred?
Okay, so if I go,
it's in the chat box.
Okay. So they are submitting it right away or tomorrow? Right away.
They are mentioning it now. They are mentioning it now.
Yes.
Okay.
So, but we'll give a break.
Thank you.
We'll give a break.
Thank you
for that. Maybe 5 minutes, and then come back.
Hello. Alcado.
Yes.
No, it's not even Alcado.
Yes, yes, Joel.
Nyambare Elisha. No, just hold on, Alcado. Someone raised his hand. Nyambare Elisha, please, you raised your hand. Let's hear you first.
Yeah, thank
Please
you.
raise your hand before you unmute your device, please.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question for this presentation of policy brief. I just need for clarity. Some other policy brief lacks this component of approaches. Then I wanted to ask you, because the intention of this policy brief is just it's just like a summary to make sure that the policy makers are able to read them without wasting too much time. So I wanted to know the need or the importance of presenting this approaches aspect to policy makers. Thank you.
Okay. If you can hear me, what I said is we are not talking about writing a detailed methodology in your policy brief. We have stated this could be just a simple one paragraph to answer the how. How was this? How did you arrive at this result? How did you arrive at this conclusion? How did you identify this question? Where did this research take place? These are the things you need to provide, because we are looking at an ideal. I'm not saying that people may not go and produce anything. We as experts have come up with what has worked. So you copy what is good and not what is not good, because you can present your findings and somebody in the parliament asks, where was this research? Where did it take place? Who conducted it? What is the background leading to this? How did you get this information? Did you do a focus group discussion? Was it through interview? Was it during did you use a questionnaire? So it is a high level approach on how you came up with the result that you came up with. That is what is necessary here. Not that you are going to go to start saying, I use chi-square or regression analysis, I use binomial. You start mentioning all those things. It's not necessary. It is just an approach, a simple paragraph, simple on how you came to that research was conducted, and the method you used to even get the relevant data that you used to come up to the findings or conclusions. Thank you. I think we are no longer taking questions now to enable us catch up with time. We will, if you have more questions, actually you can send in a text and we can respond later. But for now, we want to give some time, maybe 5 minutes break to enable the researchers to come up with something. Or you don't want us to, can we go straight to talk about it? Or you need like 5 minutes? We also can stretch.
Yeah, my worry is that we give the audience a time frame for this training, between 2 to 4, and we just have like not up to 16 minutes left. Some of them may have a scheduled other event. So I was just looking at whether we can use these last minutes for that interaction, and then tomorrow Alfred will dive into his section, and then we take a 1 hour and collect maybe project excerpts, that is what they have written, and then maybe conclude because of time. I'm just looking at that.
Okay.
Maybe let's go
that is
into the
fine.
deep dive
That is
to
fine.
get information from the project.
That is fine. That is very fine. So there's no need. We use the remaining 15 minutes or so to just get what comes to your mind from your project. I will also, maybe we can follow the same pattern that we used in the beginning of introducing the grantees. So we start from Kenya and allow Hilda to tell us what comes to her mind from her project in terms of what can influence, what can be used from her findings to influence policy. Are there things from her project that can be used to influence policy, and what is it?
Thank you, Prof. Okay, this is on a short notice, but at least I have an idea and I can get a lot of contribution from the team. I'm thinking of a policy brief that targets enhanced pest management using Earth observation data and AI, with a focus on proposing the integration of tools like what I developed into existing agricultural practices and pest management regulation, looking at capacity building, training programs for both extension officers and also farmers for effective utilization of the tool. Looking at further research, because we did a small component of it. There's a bit to enhance the capabilities of utilization of Earth observation and AI technologies for pest management in Kenya and beyond in the Africa continent, while the policy will advocate for government support in form of funding and incentives to encourage the adoption of this tool. I don't know.
Okay. So, like I said, your policy brief, and this why this is important is you need to guide you. Your policy brief should focus on one issue. Are you thinking of building the capacity of the end users? How this your new product can be promoted within the end users, like extension agents, like farmers, for them to adopt it. So if you look at that, don't go and start looking for, oh, how government can give you money, how government can do this, because giving money is not a policy on its own. But if you say, can the extension system in in Kenya adopt the use of this technology, then you begin to see how you promote your technology within the extension system so that it can become a policy brief targeting the extension system. So that's it. Thank you very much. Just target one thing. Don't pick everywhere.
Pick a lot of things. Okay.
Yes, don't pick a lot of things. That is how it is. So, Betsy.
The idea that I'm thinking about at the moment is distributed weather information services, whereby farmers can own their own weather monitoring systems to leverage local, hyper-localized weather information services rather than relying on more centralized systems currently which are not localized. So this will be in response especially to the meteorological bill that was passed in Parliament last year that prohibits anyone other than the Kenya Met to distribute or to share weather information.
Very, very good. Very important. So you can see you are swimming against the tide, and you need to, because there's a law already, but you want to say something that government can look into and say, let's customize this weather information. Let me be able to get my own within my own geography, within my own farm, within my own community, so that for my community, I'm able to get the accurate weather information that is localized. So it is a good one to come up with something that could even help government to achieve this decentralization, because government used to be at the federal level. This is how we got devolution, and then power went to the counties. So nice one to also sharpen to be a policy brief. Thank you. Nigeria, Ayadike.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Amaka, we're looking at a policy brief on using artificial intelligence to be able to enhance the production of Usuka yellow pepper. Usuka yellow pepper is a unique and available cash crop that is the production is faced with numerous challenges. So for our project, what we did was to engage all the stakeholders, the farmers, the extension officers, and the rest involved. And we're able to identify specific problems. And what we did was to go ahead to tailor solution to these specific problems that they itemize, like the pests and disease attack due to climate change, high inputs of resources, water, fertilizers, and the rest of them. So we went ahead to develop an AI-based disease detection system, real-time AI-based disease detection system. That we have our smart nutrients and irrigation
sorry
system.
to cut you short. Sorry to cut you short. You see, this is one thing we face with researchers. Once they begin to tell you about their methodology, what they have found out, they get obsessed with it. What will be of interest to the governor of Enugu State in terms of what can he draw from this, your project, and make a state policy?
Okay, thank you, sir. I think with what we have done, the government of Enugu State can come into to scale up and sustain this innovation by investing in digital infrastructure, capacity building is also one of them. Then to also foster more collaboration, because we saw that the triple helix approach works. So they can also be able to do that. Then data privacy and security is also key to.
You have started like those.
I don't know whether I have answered.
You have started like those researchers. You are touching on all your objectives, all your findings. This is not what
I'm a researcher.
Yes. So we want to train you not only as a researcher, but also to be able to influence policy. You have gotten it. But because that research system, you want to carry everything. You have a lot on you, and you want to bust with them. So why not?
Okay, I understand that I should take
one strand. Why not focus on promoting public-private partnership in the deployment of AI in Enugu for yellow pepper production, marketing, and whatever. That public-private partnership angle can then bring you as the private, bring government as public, and how can you people partner to promote this frontier technology for monitoring pests in yellow pepper and so on and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. And you focus on partnership, how you can make it work. But if you begin to talk of infrastructure, talk of this, talk of that, then you dilute what the policymaker wants to see in that policy brief. Thank you. And
thank you, sir.
Go to Ghana. Patrick.
Yes, Prof. Thank you so much. So our policy brief will target the farmers with digital literacy so that they can adopt our AI disease detection app. And the idea is to get, as we just said, the government, private organizations to enhance this agenda or to carry this agenda. So the idea is a public-private partnership to improve digital literacy among the farmers so that they can be able to effectively use the app and then help reduce crop losses and then increase yield and enhance decision making among the farmers. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. The key point that I am getting from you is digital literacy, and that has gotten what I mean. That gets the meat. So how can, knowing that people are not used to this technology, how can you promote, ensure digital literacy to ensure that the key stakeholders within the ecosystem understand and use your knowledge outputs? And you can do this. What one of the enhancers could be how the partnerships that can come from government, from civil society, from donors and all this. But digital literacy is your focus with respect to your technology. Very good one. You think more about now developing it. Sonia from Cape Verde. Is Sonia still with us? Okay. Is Hudson here now? Or Kebe? Otherwise, Alcado?
Yeah, good afternoon again. So our policy will focus on the impacts of AI in the artificial intelligence in increasing agriculture productivity for smallholder farmers in Tanzania. So looking at the utilization of artificial intelligence, AI and the other digital technologies in increasing crop yield production for smallholder farmers, especially women and girls, youth, and emerging farmers. So this may be the scope of the policy brief that we're going to develop. Thank you.
All right. Just ensure that you are not working on AI and other digital technologies. There's nothing like that in a policy brief. You are working on AI, and that AI has a particular, you have a particular tool. You have to define that tool you are using that has created, and you have to show the because you're looking at impact, you have to have evidence of the control and now the intervention, the impact that your technology has had, and in terms of numbers, that previously people were producing 5 tons of maize from 1 hectare. But then, because you talked about impact, but then with this AI technology, they are able to do A, B, C, D things, and they are now producing 10 tons. That way, government will immediately, the antenna will stand and say, let's go for how we can replicate this technology so that we get more tons from the adoption of this technology. So you have to be specific in the tool. It is not AI and other technologies. It is your tool that is using to change the status quo to this level based on facts and figures that you have already seen. So that is how you argue that point out. Thank you, Alcado. Is Fandika here now?
Hello.
Is that Fandika?
No, I'm Helbert Kumwenda, but I was working with Dr. Fandika on the sensors. So he's not yet here, but I can as well say something about our project.
Okay, you are free. I saw him come in and leave. I think we should take some of these things seriously. But if you are working with him, that is also very good. Can you give us your own idea of
so
the policy brief you want to produce?
Yeah, so the focus of the policy brief that we want to produce is on public-private partnership, as well as building the capacity in the farmers and also in the extension system. Because we're working on soil moisture sensors that monitor soil moisture, which eventually promotes or to improve the yield of the crops. So with that, that's what we want to focus on in terms of promoting public-private partnership, so that the private sector should be able to come in and take that part of producing the sensor so that they should reach to the farmers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You mixed 2 things. You talked about public-private partnership. You also talk about capacity. You have to look at which one that is of greatest priority to your community, to your county or state, to your country, with respect to the outcomes and outputs from your research. And then you focus on what you think that the policymakers would draw more attention of the policymakers easily for you to be able to do a very good policy brief when it is published, for it to get attention of the government. Thank you very much, Fandika and team.
Thank you very much.
Good liver. And is there any other project that I think we have? Hilda, Betsy, Anyadike, Patrick. Sonia was here with us, but then she has not presented. Then Alcado and Fandika. So these are the ones that have presented. 4 others are not here yet. Good. So I want to thank you again, and I hand over back to Joel to conclude. At least you can see that we're able to make your time. You said your concern is about time. So we are not going, we are policymakers. We don't, we value time a lot. So I know that we are going to come to this point where we will not take much of the time of our trainees. Thank you. Over to you, Joel.
All right, thank you, Professor Nicholas. So you can take time to think through the project, at least your brain or our brains have been activated. So we want to listen to Alfred quickly to tell us what we're expecting tomorrow, and then we now close. Alfred, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. Joel. And thank you, Nicholas. That was a good training. I think most of us are now beginning to look at policy briefs as very serious tools for advocating for policy practice. So tomorrow, I think what we have just started to think about our projects and how they can influence policies and practice in our communities, in our countries, through the tools that we have. So this brief has I think, provided some sort of background that can help you think through your projects. So for tomorrow, before, because we eventually want to have products as you've had, and we have a deadline of about a week or so to have full policy briefs which you can review and get back and also go on so that we can be able to publish them. So tomorrow, I would like you to, if you look at the chart, I have provided some key insights. You can go and think about your project, think about that particular problem that you want to solve in your country with the tools that you have developed, and AI tools. Think about the reasons why that project is important, so the rationale for that. And then in bullet points, you can provide some, all these in bullet points, so you can provide some key findings that are important that can inform any interventions that you already working on, and then kindly sort of provide the actions that you think if you undertake them as stakeholders, they can have an impact, they can lead to adoption of those tools, they can lead to changes in policies, in whichever policies that are there, and also help change the thinking of government and other stakeholders around the area that you're working on. So that is what I want you to go and draft. Like that can take you 1 or 2 pages of bullet points, and then eventually, after looking at your document, you can come up with 3 key messages that a policymaker or a stakeholder can look at, can read, and get clearly what your policy brief is all about, which gives the status and gives the key recommendation, key findings and key recommendations that are important in your project. So 2-page document that talks about your project and those specific sections that I've mentioned. So provide bullet points, findings, 3 or 4 recommendations, and then 3 to 4 major key messages. Then we can then look at that tomorrow, each project by project, as look at how to frame these statements so that they are able, because we wouldn't want, as you've heard, we wouldn't want to have jargon and very complex words in these documents. We will just require a clear communication about your project and how it can enhance those specific, or can contribute to solving problems that you have identified. So that is it. I don't know whether that is clear to all of us. If not, then please, because we're already out of time, you can ask now, then I can clarify. Any question? So I hope it is clear. Okay, Joel, I think maybe I can write an email, something that we can communicate through the WhatsApp group, and also to make it very clear to everyone. It is not clear to some of us. Joel, please take over.
Thank you. Alfred. Thank you, team, for this insightful discussion, and especially Professor also for providing this practical lead. As a conclusion, I would say that once the research space or project implementation space is dominated by researchers, you can see that we need a lot of training to know how to talk with these governments, government around the policymakers. So what we have seen today is not all about theoretical research work or trying to use the theories and all that, state the equations and use the jargons. We should also be thinking through, as Professor Zoe mentioned, how we drive societal impacts so that it will not remain in the shelf. So please, henceforth, try and use what I call the lessons learned to drive future projects by thinking deep about the people, engaging them to know how we can provide a very, very strong evidence for policymaking. If we don't think through, we'll continue being, the generation gap between us and the policymakers will continue to widen. We want to make ourselves relevant. So get prepared tomorrow for a very exciting session